Welcome to Lakers Roundtable. Mark Medina with the LA Times Lakers blog. We're bringing on a guest to preview the Lakers Trailblazers game tonight at Staples Center. Now, this guest obviously doesn't need an introduction. I'll introduce him anyway. He's the one and only Matt Calkins, the Portland Trailblazers beat writer for the Columbian. What's going on, dude?
There are a few of us. If you Google me, there's also a small business owner and a well-regarded psychologist. So there's at least 3 Matt Calkinses.
You're the only one that has the name branding and recognition, though.
True that.
So, Matt, last time we talked earlier in the season, Portland had the best record in the West. Now the Blazers stand 17-15 and have the 8th seed. Now, I know at the time you said it's way too early in the season to make any conclusions, but, I know you and Portland fans always calculate these efficiency ratings and stats to a T. So what do you think has changed since then?
You know what? I think people are just as confused, or just as unsure is maybe the better way to put it. I mean, if you look at this team's last few games, they lost to the Wizards by 15 points. Granted, LaMarcus Aldridge was out for that game. He sprained his ankle 3 minutes into it. But then they dominated the Hawks by 20 points. They almost knocked off the Clippers after being up by 18 without LaMarcus and then blowing that whole lead. And then they go into Golden State, whom they've lost 12 out of 13 to in Oakland, and beat them without LaMarcus. So people are still trying to figure out what this team's all about. Nate McMillan has made some changes in the lineup, considering Nick Batum at the 2 guard, and he's been killing it since he's been promoted. But I think the big question is Raymond Felton, who's been almost non-existent throughout the year, and came up with one of the best games of the year Saturday against the Hawks, and he dropped 14-8. So we'll start trying to figure it out.
So what accounts for all this inconsistency?
Well, I think a lot of it does stem from the point guard. People last year had Andre Miller. We could count on Andre Miller, who was one of the most consistent guards in the league. He wasn't flashy, but you really knew what you were going to get from him. He wasn't going to take a lot of three-pointers. People weren't counting on him to make outside shots, whereas Raymond Felton is playing this different game where, he is going to shoot. He does look to score a little bit. And he came in as a career 30-something% three-point shooter and was 20% for the good part of this year. And he's just been under so much criticism as a result. He just hasn't been effective. I think you talked about efficiency ratings. And, maybe we're not calculating, on our T85 after every game. But we do look at that stuff up here, and he was the 45th most efficient point guard in the NBA for the good part of the season. And this is a guy that was supposed to replace a borderline all-star caliber player in Andre Miller. And he just hasn't been doing it for much of the season. So I think that's probably the primary issue.
Now, since then, Nicolas Batum has been in the starting lineup, and you broke down some efficiency ratings in one of your articles recently, where you say he's averaged 22.7 points in the past 4 games since that switch. How's that dynamic changed?
Nicolas Batum.
I said his last name wrong.
Hey man, that's exactly how I pronounced it when I first moved up here. No worries, it's a rite of passage. He has been averaging 22.7 points per game since being inserted into the starting lineup 4 games ago. Nate McMillan was, kind of fielding a lot of questions about the distribution of minutes, and one of the big ones was Wesley Matthews starting over Nicolas Batum. Matthews had a big year last year, but has pretty much been in a 32-game slump this year, and they inserted Nick in there, and he's just been killing it. He's been hitting his outside shot. He's really been aggressive, going to the basket. Good for a couple dunks per game, it looks like. And all year long, I think the Blazers have been looking for that number 2 guy to complement Aldridge, who has really established himself as a legitimate all-star, one of, if not the best power forward in the NBA. But they couldn't find that sidekick for him. And through 4 games, Nick is starting to slide into that role. I wouldn't quite give him that title yet, but he's getting there. He's getting closer with every top-notch performance he gives.
So, Matt, you really went out on a limb here and wrote that the key matchup for the Lakers-Blazers game will involve how Portland guards Kobe Bryant. So Batum's going to get some run at him. How do you see him holding his own defensively?
I was just like, how can I find that one unique angle? It's a keep Portland weird thing, and I just felt like I could explore that angle in a way that nobody's touched. But yeah, Nicolas Batum, he probably will be on Kobe, as most teams do, as the Blazers do when it comes to a superstar player. They're going to rotate, put some other guys on him. Gerald Wallace will probably be on him for a little bit. Wesley Matthews, Nick Batum. Obviously, there's no magic bullet when it comes to stopping Kobe, but defending him is obviously going to be key. And the way that Nick or Gerald Wallace is able to perform on offense is going to be significant as well. Remember, Wallace last time really was the guy who took the Blazers apart, or took the Lakers apart. He scored 31 points, and there just wasn't an answer for him. So to beat a team like LA on the road, where the Blazers have consistently struggled, it's a team that's been inconsistent anyway. You're going to have to see a big performance out of a guy like Nick or a guy like Gerald for them to have a chance.
So how is LaMarcus Aldridge's ankle held up?
It looks good. They were being real cautious with him after he injured it. And, everyone's really paranoid here in Portland when we see a guy get injured. There's just been so many knee problems with Greg Oden and Brandon Roy, and even the lesser profile guys like Jeff Pendergrass, who missed the whole season last year before being released. The ankle's doing well. People were relieved that it was just an ankle, and when he came back against Atlanta, I think people were wondering how he was going to be moving, but he really looked to have that stride in his step. I think they wanted to make sure he was 100% before they put him back out there, and rather than rusty, he just looked well rested. You could see that he was moving well, he wasn't getting too tired, so I don't think the ankle is really an issue whatsoever at this point.
Okay, so I know there's been some debate among, those fans who calculate the efficiency ratings as far as whether they should rest him or not until the All-Star break is over. It sounds like you think he's healthy enough to keep going.
Yes, if you look at the Western Conference standings, one game really could be the difference in getting to the playoffs or not. I haven't joined my efficiency calculating brethren in the last day. I don't know exactly where everybody stands, with Minnesota and Utah and everyone battling for that 8th spot right now. But yeah, for LaMarcus, for the Blazers to drop a game because they wanted to rest LaMarcus could be unforgivable towards the season ends, or if they happen to miss the playoffs by one game. So they got to put him out there, and it doesn't really seem like a risk right now. I don't think the ankle is tender enough where he risks hurting it. Maybe there'll be a little pain right there, but no, they got to go to their horse. He's been their guy all year, and they're going to put him on the court whenever they can.
So what was his reaction to making the All-Star team?
He tends to downplay these things. Every year he says that, I'm not really thinking about it. I don't really care. But you can really tell that he does. When he didn't make it last year, he's really disappointed. But it's funny. Once again, he bought a ticket to Dallas during the All-Star break, and obviously the game is in Orlando. But his family is from Dallas, so he once again kind of convinced himself that he wasn't going to make it. I think it was a bit of a self-defense mechanism. He bought that ticket, was ready to see his family, and then he got the nod a couple of Thursdays ago to go to the game. And he sounded really happy about it. This was the guy that made third-team All-NBA last year after being what he thought was snubs for the All-Star game. So he wasn't included in the top 24 players in the league for the game, but at the end of the year, he was top 15 in the league by making third-team All-NBA, but he said that making the All-Star team was a much bigger honor for him than the All-NBA selection. It's been a career-long goal of his. You can tell that in his younger days, he would get real excited about it. There was a big letdown when he didn't make it. So I think there was a lot of satisfaction for LaMarcus, and he's earned it. He really has developed his game over the years. and he's turning into an elite power forward. And I think it's really kind of between him, Blake Griffin, and Kevin Love for the best power forward in the NBA right now. I mean, Kevin Garnett and Tim Duncan aren't where they used to be. I think Amari Stoudemire is a little inconsistent. So LaMarcus is pushing for that title. And I think the All-Star game was, just another positive reinforcement for how much his game has grown over the past couple of years.
Do you consider him to be that best power forward in the NBA?
Do I think he is?
Yes.
Say that again?
Do you think that he is the best power forward? You're talking about he's in the mix with Kevin
right.
Love and Blake Griffin, but where do you cast your vote?
Well, I think he is better than Blake Griffin. I do think that. I'm not sure that he's going to be better than Blake Griffin in 2 years because Blake Griffin's obviously just in his second year in the NBA has a highly acclaimed work ethic and is just going to get better and has those physical tools that are just unparalleled. But I don't know that he's better than Kevin Love. I mean, those numbers speak for themselves. I know that they're not winning games, at a extremely high level. They're about a 500 team, but I mean, when you're putting up 26 and 15 a game and your true shooting percentage is, near 60 and you can knock down that three and, I mean, look at these numbers he's putting up. You'll see like 30 and 20 from him like it's no big deal. So I think Kevin Love has that title right now. And LaMarcus may be chasing him, but I'd go with Kevin Love as the guy right now.
So we're speaking with Matt Calkins, who covers the Trailblazers for the Columbian. You can follow him on Twitter at Blazer Banter. And, I mean, do these plugs help with your traffic at all or no?
I mean, have
you been able to assess the efficiency rating with that?
I figure these things probably do more for you than they do for me, just having my name associated with it,
Oh, no, that is very true.
My Twitter followers, it kind of sells itself.
Well, fair enough. Well, one of the things that you linked on your Twitter page was this open letter to Brandon Roy, just kind of expressing some sympathy for why he hasn't, returned to the Rose Garden and shown more of a presence, but, also explaining the importance that he does that at some point. Has he replied to your letter yet?
He hasn't. He hasn't. I think he's probably working on it right now. I think he's old school when he replies. It's going through the mail, so it's going to be at least a couple of days before it reaches my mailbox. But Brandon's actually been kind of shut off from everybody. He, as I mentioned in the article, I think Nate McMillan put a call into him a couple of weeks ago, and never heard back from him. And he's talked to Jamal Crawford a lot, who's his good buddy, from Seattle. But I think he's just really kind of distanced himself from basketball, distanced himself from the Blazers, and I don't fault him for that. Granted, he has $80 million that he got for, after being amnestied, and so he's got financial comfort, but he got his pride and joy taken away from him in basketball, and he wanted to be the best. Ron Artest said that he was the hardest guy that he had to cover. Kobe Bryant said the same thing. So this was a guy that wanted to be an elite player and will never have that opportunity again. At the same time, I think that this city embraces him in a way that you rarely see that's almost unrivaled across the country. There was an outpouring of emotion when he retired. People were calling into radio shows crying. And nobody's seen him since. He hasn't made an appearance. He hasn't done an interview. And I totally understand, but I think it would really mean a lot to the fans if he were to show his face. And I think it would mean a lot to him, too, to get that ovation. I think it would be 5 or 10 minutes. I really think that he's the most beloved figure in this entire city. And I just think that he should be recognized and he should kind of salute the people that love him.
How do you break down the fan sentiment in regards to that?
In regards to him not showing up?
Yeah.
Well, I've been talking. I talked to a few people, probably a couple dozen when I was doing a little research for the column, and it's kind of split. A lot of people are like, "Hey, it's Brandon. He can do whatever he wants to do. He's got an open invitation. Anytime he wants to come to the Rose Garden, we're going to be there for him." But I totally understand what he's going through, and he can take all the time he needs. Whereas other people are saying, "Hey, I understand that it's tough for him, but I'm kind of disappointed that he hasn't shown his face. I mean, he's such a charmed life, even if he is injured. Why don't you say what's up to the fans? There's even one guy who just felt like totally ditched, I think he said he ditched just like a bad date, and now there's no connection to the team whatsoever, and he feels a little jilted as a result. But I think most of the people sympathize with Brandon. The reaction I've gotten to the article from a lot of people have been like, dude, why do you have to bring this up even? It's Brandon. Leave him alone. Don't try to guilt trip him. And I wasn't really trying to guilt trip him in the article, but people are sensitive when it comes to B-Roy, and they don't want their hero questioned whatsoever. So I think in this town, people are cool with him staying away for as long as he wants, for the most part.
So back to this upcoming game, why don't the Lakers seem to have an answer for Gerald Wallace?
Oh, man, they're Occupy Staples. I still remember his Twitter handle. So hopefully he's listening right now. But, yeah, last time I said there's no answer for Gerald Wallace. That's going to be the key to the game. He came right at me and said, why do we need an answer for a guy who scores 14 points a game? Come on, Matt. You got to give me a better analysis than that. And I said, all right, let's see what happens. I need a homage paid to me if he does go off. And sure enough, he went to 31. I'm going to go ahead and say the Lakers do have an answer for him this time. And I'm going to say that Nick Batum is the guy who ultimately gives the Lakers the toughest fit. But I'm still going to say the Lakers win this game tonight.
Really? Why is that?
Yeah. I mean, Portland on the road is like the Bobcats anywhere else. I mean, really, they haven't been able to find any sort of consistency. I mean, I think they beat Golden State last week just because they were so embarrassed by that loss to the Wizards that they just had to rally together. And I think Golden State may have been, underestimated them a little bit considering they didn't have LaMarcus Aldridge in the lineup. But the Lakers don't underestimate people. And I just, until I see some consistency on the road, I'm going to always assume that a team over 500 hosting the Blazers are going to beat them.
So break this down. Why did you have some doubts about Gerald Wallace before?
Why did I have some doubts?
Yeah, he called you out.
Oh, you mean Occupy Staples?
Yeah.
I don't know what's up, man. I mean, it's like my word wasn't gold to him. I don't get it. It hurt me. It hurt me as a professional in this business, but I'm glad that everything worked out.
You've been able to move on past that since then?
Well, deep down it's always going to hurt, but I'm still able to operate day to day.
Now, one of the things that you also analyzed, the key for Portland to win this game, even though you don't think this will happen, but the key to doing that would be involving getting their perimeter game going. Obviously, to do that, they need to make shots, but what do they need to do to put themselves in that position?
I really think that the potential between LaMarcus Aldridge and Nick Batum or Nick Batum, depending on your phonetic interpretation, is for their inside-outside game is huge. I mean, that really could take off this year because we've seen Nick really hone in that outside touch. And LaMarcus draws so much attention. He's got an unblockable fadeaway shot, and if he gets going and has a guy that can complement him and knock down those outside shots, then it's going to be a really tough team to stop in the half court. Before the past few games, there hasn't been that guy who can knock down shots. Nate McMillan's always complaining that nobody can hit shots. We got to make shots. And the thing is, it's true. Nobody was hitting them. I mean, Raymond Felton was having an all-time career low, shooting like 20% from deep. Wesley Matthews, who shot over 40% from last year, is shooting 34% from behind the arc and really not finding any consistency. So obviously, you got to find that guy you can rely on to hit those outside shots, and Batum is climbing into that role. And I'm telling you, if he's hitting, it's going to be really tough to stop because LaMarcus has just been consistent against everyone this whole year, and you really know what you're going to get out of him. He's not a 23-point scorer who scores 10 one game and 36 the next. It's really always right around 23, 25, 27. So he's the consistent one, and if they can find another guy stroking from deep, like I said, a formidable matchup.
Those are the thoughts of Matt Calkins, the Portland Trailblazers beat writer for the Columbian. Matt, thanks for all your time.
It was a beautiful experience, Mark. Thanks for having me on.